Belle journée, le beau dimanche.
I'm wishing you a beautiful
Que toute
day
votre semaine
and a
soit
beautiful
belle
Sunday.
et heureuse.
May your whole week be beautiful
Mais
happy.
alors, j'adore, il faut que vous compreniez, j'adore, vraiment,
But
c'est un
I
bonheur.
love, you have to understand, I really love,
Une félicité,
it's a happiness.
ça peut durer longtemps, hein. J'adore ça.
A
Vous mettez
felicity.
la statue
It can last
et
for
on
a
se
long
met
time.
autour
I love this.
et on
You
chante.
put the statue and
On
we are
chante
around
et
it
on est ensemble.
and we sing.
Et on se regarde.
We sing and we are
on
together
s'apprécie et puis après
and we look at one
on
another.
a la statue.
We appreciate one
Cette
another.
statue,
And
c'est un
after
peu nouveau.
we have the statue.
Mais
This
comment
statue
expliquer?
is a bit new,
C'est Dieu
but
lui-même.
how can I explain this? It's
Cette statue,
God, Him, and herself.
c'est une
This
statue.
statue.
Mais en réalité, elle est tout
It's
à
a
fait
statue.
étrange. Parce que
But in
cette
reality,
statue
it's
n'a
very
pas été
strange
faite
because
par des
the
hommes.
statue hasn't
ni
been
par des
done
femmes.
by
Je
men,
sais, vous allez me dire, c'est Lucille, c'est Isabelle qui
neither
ont fait des
by
statues.
women. I know you're
Je
going
vous
to
dis non.
tell me it's
Je vous dis
Lucille
bien
and
sûr.
Isabelle that did statues.
Ce sont
I'm
ces
telling
deux
you
sœurs
no. I'm saying,
qui
you're saying of
ont
course.
fait la statue
It's
avec
these
leurs
two
mains.
sisters
Mais ce n'est pas
that
elles.
have done the
qui ont
statue
fait
with
la
their
statue.
hands. But it's
La
not
statue
them
a été faite.
that did the statue.
Elles sont la
The statue
conséquence de
has been
tout un
done.
monde.
They are
Et
the
ça
consequence
fait
of a whole world.
c'est des milliers d'années.
And it
Pour que cette
does,
statue arrive
it's
là au
been
milieu de nous,
millions of
il
years for
faut
this
des
statue
milliers d'années
to
de
arrive
préparation,
there in the middle of
de
us.
souffrance,
There has to be millions
d'espoir.
of years
Et
of
là, bien
preparation,
sûr, je
of
peux imaginer
suffering,
que mes paroles
of
peuvent choquer et vous pouvez
hope.
trouver ça
And of
étrange.
course,
Mais vous
I
savez,
can imagine
ça
that
va
my
prendre du
spoken
temps.
words can shock you
Mais
and you
vous
can
allez
find
voir,
this strange.
je
But you
vous
know,
donne rendez-vous
it will take time.
dans 10
But you
ans,
will
hein.
see.
C'est pas Patrick Bruel, hein.
I will
C'est
give you
moi, je vous
a
donne
meeting
rendez-vous dans
in
10 ans.
10 years from
Et
now.
alors,
I'm giving
vous verrez
you
la statue
a meeting in 10 years with me.
Parce que
And
cette
you will see the statue
c'est Dieu
in a whole different way.
lui-même.
Because this statue is God Himself.
Ça n'a plus existé depuis des milliers et des milliers
It,
d'années.
it hasn't existed
La dernière
for
fois que l'on voit ça
thousands
sur la
and
terre,
thousands of years.
d'abord on ne le voit pas.
The last
On
time
ne
that
le
we have
voit
seen
pas
this
parce
on
que
earth,
l'histoire,
of course,
la
we
mémoire
haven't
qu'on
seen
en
it.
a
We don't
est
see it
déformée.
because the story,
Nous
the
ne
history, the
voyons
memory that
que
we
la
have is
chute d'un
deformed.
monde. Mais nous ne voyons
We
pas.
only
C'est comme
see
des enfants
the
dans une
fall of a
famille.
world,
Ils sont
but we
très
don't
heureux,
see.
tout est,
It's
tout
like
est
children in a
incroyablement,
family. They are very happy.
bénéfique.
Everything
Mais
is
pourquoi?
incredibly
Parce que qu'est-ce que c'est une famille?
beneficial.
Une famille, c'est une
Why?
maison.
Because what is a family?
C'est très
A
important.
family is a
Une famille,
house.
c'est une maison.
It's very
Ensuite,
important.
c'est un papa,
A family is a
une maman,
house.
des enfants,
And
des
after,
amis, des
it's a
oncles, tout ce
father,
que vous voulez.
a
Mais
mother,
vous avez la maison,
children,
papa,
friends,
la maman,
uncles,
les
everything that
enfants.
you want to.
Et
But you
en fin
have
de
the
compte,
house,
tout est
the father, the
dans
mother,
l'harmonie,
children.
tout est dans le bonheur, tout
And
va
ultimately,
bien.
everything
Pourquoi?
is in harmony, in
Parce que, en fin de
happiness.
compte,
Everything
le
goes
papa,
well.
qu'est-ce que
Why?
c'est une
Because
statue. C'est un
ultimately,
statut.
the father, what is
Être
it?
un père, c'est un statut.
It's
Un
a
statut
statue.
social, un statut
It's
juridique,
a
un
statue.
statut de ce que tu veux.
To be a
C'est-à-dire
father
le
is a statue, a
Être-
social
être
statue,
statufié, être
jurisdiction,
dans un statut,
of everything
être
that
une
you want to,
personne morale,
meaning a
de
statue,
pouvoir
to be
statuer. Le père va
to be in a
statuer,
statue,
c'est-à-dire qu'il va
to be a
décréter
person
des
of
lois.
morality.
Si le père décrète
The
de
father
bonnes
will
lois, c'est le
statue.
bonheur. Si le père
He will
décrète
give
de mauvaises
laws.
lois, c'est
If
le
the
malheur.
father
Si le père
gives
est
good
honnête,
laws,
si la
it's
maman est
happiness.
honnête, c'est le
If the
bonheur.
laws gives
L'honnêteté
bad laws,
amène le
it's
bonheur.
unhappiness.
La
If he's
malhonnêteté,
honest,
le
if the
mensonge,
mother is
mentir
honest,
à ses
it's
enfants.
happiness. Honesty brings
Mentir à
happiness.
sa femme, mentir
But
à son mari,
lying to your
mentir à
children,
ses amis, se cacher,
to her, your
être
wife,
une
to
fausse
your
image de ce que l'on est,
to
se
your
présenter
to
d'une
your
façon
friends,
et
to
être
your
faux, être
husband,
d'une
to be a
autre
false
façon,
image of
ne
what you
pas
are,
être
to
vrai.
present
Dieu
yourself,
ne vénérera pas
but to
du
be
tel.
false in another way. not to be true. You will not venerate idols. You will never venerate idols. What didn't you understand? It's enormous. Oh, it's the statues. It's not good. No, really. The statues, that's what it is. Not to venerate idols. Maybe I'm going to speak to you about this. Not to venerate idols. You have to stop at this and understand what is an idol. It's to see something that is physical, not without seeing the other part, the subtle part. And it's to stop only at the part that is visible, is an idol. You take the Torah, you take the Psalms, the Bible, everything that you have. If you don't look at what is behind it, it's an idol. Everything, your mother, your father, you make yourself an idea, a concept of something that isn't really, that isn't with it, it's an idol. And you are in idols. It's not because I don't believe in idols that you're not in idols. Not to venerate idols is a whole world. God says you will not venerate idols. Who said, oh, well, Egyptians, they idolize. No, they didn't idolize. Meaning your father and your mother, the family, the husband, the mother. If the father becomes false or the mother becomes false, it becomes an idol. Meaning an idol is not something that is visible. It's something that comes and takes the place of. And you no longer have in front of you an authentic father or mother authentic. So the family will fall. And after, for example, you have many examples of this because you have the father, he is in the glory, he is in honesty, and all of a sudden, for example, you will start to have friends, relationships, and it's alcoholism. For example, I'm not going to judge or characterize all of this or to infuriate someone. It's not at all what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there's beings that are inferior. I'm saying that all beings must be in a family and to love one another and to forgive one another. But if you start to drink a little bit more, then you can start to have states of mind and you can destroy your family. It happens every day. And there you will see children that have had a happy life and then they have an unhappy life all of a sudden, and they no longer live in glory, but they live in the fall of what had existed, but is no longer there. It's been 6,000 years, 2,000 years ago that we live in the fall of what has been and no longer is. We have retried to come to construct houses, Judaism, but these beings were always in the fall. For example, the Jews, you will not venerate idols. So we're going to take everything away. Even the hieroglyphs of the Egyptians, we're going to put abstract letters so that we don't idolate. Because before, what was the alphabet? It was the alphabet Alpha, Beta, Aleph, Bet, meaning God in His house. God in His house, with His family, meaning the temple, the house of God. And then they transformed the alphabet, and they took everything away. And after their idol, their God, their visible God and incarnated God, was the Torah. But after, they took the Torah and they statuified it, and they fixed it. So the Christians, what did they do? They said, oh, well, our God, the statue of God, is Jesus. The Buddhism, what did they do? The statue of God is Buddha. And ultimately, they put Buddha. It's very beautiful, the Buddhists. It's really a particular religion. So they said, oh, it's simple. I'm going to take the posture of Buddha. Before Buddha, it was Shiva. Before Buddha, it was Shiva. Buddha didn't invent meditation. Buddha ultimately took the posture of Shiva, and he had become Shiva, but we call him Buddha. But before we called him Shiva, but it's always the same one, God. And ultimately he became God, meaning there are many beings that venerate Buddha that become like God, like many beings venerate Jesus like God. But you have to understand that all these statues have been done by men, by men, by men, not by God, but by men, because God didn't venerate Buddha, neither Jesus, only men did. God, He loves all men, all the animals, all the plants, all the minerals, all the creatures, all the thoughts. God is love. God is a blessing. God is a welcoming, a sharing, the Father of all the fathers, the authentic Father and the authentic Mother. There's no judgment of values. You can have a child that's handicapped. You can have a child that's gifted. You can have all these things, but you will love all the children. There's not one child that's superior to another child. So Jesus, of course, He's been a splendor to explain all of these things, and He's spoken words, and it was so great. So yes, for the first time, I'm telling you, since thousands of years, it's not a statue that has been done by men, a statue that has been done by God Himself. And God comes and renews His tradition. And the temple that we're going to construct, or not, I'm not sure, because we still have to go through all those barriers, but this temple that we're going to construct is the first temple of the house of God on earth. Not the house of God, of Jesus. Try to imagine. You love me, we're together, I'm not going to be there anymore. There's certain people that's going to say, but it's when someone that's not there anymore that we meet, he's there, but we don't really know what. So we ask ourselves some questions. To ask yourself questions on me is normal. It's completely natural, because of course there is something that isn't normal, because it's not a man that did this. So because it isn't a man, then it's very astonishing, isn't it? So in reality, what will happen? Well, we're going to ask ourselves some questions. When he was there, it was easy, but it's a little bit more complicated when he isn't there, because what he was capable of doing, I can't really do it. And if I was in your place, then we'll have to concentrate on what we have, and it would be very easy to satisfy myself, completely understand. That guy there, he's the one that we need to concentrate on. So we're going to put him in the center. That's what the Christians did. It's so human. That's what the disciples of Peter Deneuve and of Omram Mikhail Ivanov did. Now, he is God. That's what they say. He was an extraordinary being, and they stay on him. It's so human. So human to say this, to do this, to have the love and to protect what we love. But in reality, it's a mistake, my friends. Because if you put me in the statue, you are in a mistake, because Oliver is only a man. In reality, God is God. And God is great. And God is in all beings. And God needs to be honored. And God needs to be honored in spirit and truth. And God is for everyone. And He is sharing. And in greatness. And that statue is the perfection of all perfections. Because that statue, you can't say if it's a woman or a man. That statue is him and her. He is beyond everything. He is one. Someone that comes and takes a body and makes appear. Is it a man? No, it's us with the archangels and the angels, because we've made a circle. Of course, we are very far from being perfect. We are with men. We are men, like all men. But in reality, we have faults and qualities. But we have bowed in front of the virtues, and we have said the virtues are superior to us. And that I can guarantee you that that's an attitude that we must continue to have. Of course, I shouldn't if I'm not wise, but the wisdom does exist, and I honor the angels, because the angels are greater than men. I honor the angel of wisdom, of harmony. And if you have the eyes and you go towards the worlds, then ultimately there's a place that it prepares, because you're preparing your future, and that for the future generations also. So we did this, and after we bowed in front of the archangels, meaning the great universal laws of life, universal. There are laws of fire, of air, of water, and of earth. There's laws of thoughts, of spoken words and knowledge. The archangels are the guardians of divine knowledge and of all laws, and we have bowed, not like a superstition or like idolizing. No, but we've welcomed these archangels. And what did they do? They gave psalms. And these psalms are real. They exist now. They are with us. We can read them, we can meditate on them, and I can guarantee you that every day that passes, today, they are growing on earth. And in reality, in this moment, there's a being that is starting to discover them. And every day you can think that there's a being that's discovering the work that we have done together by prayer. And ultimately that being is starting to change. And it's a great liberty, because in reality he's starting to discover a psalm. And he's saying, but it speaks to me. It's nourishing me. And ultimately it's going to change him and transform him. All these psalms are acting everywhere. These archangels didn't give these psalms for us, for men. They gave the psalms to make appear in the center of our circle, the statue of God. And these psalms are done to nourish the statue in the middle of us and inside of us. There. Now, I can talk to you about it for hours and days. I don't know if you feel it. And if you really want me to explain to you in all details, it's something what I just told you. I'm telling you that the last house that existed on earth, it was in Egypt. It was the house of God. What was in this house? Well, it's incredible. It's completely incredible. It's a knowledge, a precision, a science that is extraordinary. These beings had a knowledge that was integrity of this knowledge, of intelligence. There was chambers. And then in temple, it was like a woman that had her legs open, that she needed to bring this sperm right to the middle. Look at the temples. You have the two legs that are open, and the sun will enter right into the middle and will go into the feminine temple, so that God can be born by all worlds. And he really wanted to show us that the fertilization and marriage and alliance is so important, and that you needed to put in the world love and not hate. And all of these things were to control, to bring order, and ultimately the house. So you also had a boat in the temple, and that was very important. And what did you have inside, really? You had a hidden place, an Arch of Alliance, and inside of it was a statue of God. You had a priest that needed to put this statue, the chief of state, Pharaoh, that was just at the service of God and needed to embrace the statue, breathe with it, unite with it, to be able to hold God on earth. And he was a real chief of state, meaning a father, a mother, and a house, the earth, that didn't belong to any man but to God. And we need to do the law and the will of God. You will not lie, you will not idolize, you will not bring these things, you will not do bad things. You will be in love, you will take care of God, you will not pronounce my name in vain. Meaning in the lie, you're not allowed to speak of peace. Only God speaks of peace. If you speak of peace, you can only realize it. You're not allowed to lie or usurp or to steal peace. That's all. And if you do not cultivate me and not honor me, then darkness will come and will possess you, and will conduct you into enslavement. That's what the Egyptian temple told us, that it was false gods. Of course it was false gods, because there's a moment where someone comes and usurps this statue and wants men to be greater than God, then it's done. It's me. I am the God of love. I am the God of knowledge. I am wise. No, no man is wise. You're creating an idol. Oh, that one. That one. He was Jesus, like Jesus, for example. He's an idol at the end. You are no longer in the truth. You are in an idolization. Look at the Quran. It's an idolization. Of course, they try to protect themselves of that. They are trying not to idolize Mahomet and the Quran and to bow in front of the God and to serve him and to be in honesty. But it's very, very hard to go against these strengths and forces when you don't have a real chief of state and mother and father. There's no longer have been a temple like this for thousands of years. This temple will be reconstructed. And it's not us that is doing these things, but it's a superior light that's coming and does these things.
C'est une grandeur. Alors la statue du recyclage doit toujours être derrière nous.
It's a grandeur. And the statue of recycling must always be behind us. You will see, we're going to organize ourselves. We're going to put the statue behind us in the perfection of writing, and you're going to concentrate yourself, and we're going to call worlds. And of course, there's going to be years, but it's going to enter. And in our future generations, we're going to enter more and more, and the concentration will be perfect. And of course, the divine world will appear. I can give you many things, because after, how to explain this? It's something that is greater that will appear. The ancients knew this. For example, I'm asking you a question. What is the most important? Your house? Or the man that lives in the house? What is the most important? We're going to say, well, the man that lives in the house. Oh, well, no. The man that lives in the house is nothing. The house is more important than you. My house is more important than my own existence. Yes, that's what I'm telling you. You are just someone. Is it your house that is at your service? Or is it you that is at the service of your house? You're going to tell me? Well, the house is at my service. No? Listen, how you think, and you are persuaded to be true, and you think that you're thinking this, and probably you haven't even thought of these questions because you are possessed. In reality, it's these worlds that make you believe that you're more important than your house, because when you think that you're important, we are stealing your house. And your house is no longer yours, and it's no longer important. Oh, well, I'm going to move, I'm going to go there. But ultimately, at the end, you have nothing. And in reality, your house is the only thing that stays. It stays. It's the only one. And the only thing that survives is your house. The house will survive you. And who stays in it? Your children? No, that's not my children. It's a location I'm renting. Oh, well, you've lost everything. And you have nothing. But it can't belong to my children. There's taxes. There's taxes and there's more taxes and there's taxes. And of course what? Well, there's taxes. And of course what? Well, we don't want it to be your house. Well, we don't want it to be the house of God. And ultimately, what's going to stay? Well, nothing. Try to approach the Egyptians. They lived uniquely for the temple. What do you find in Egypt? Temples. And what do you find? Nothing else. Do you find the houses that lived? They had no interest. They lived only for the house of God. There. I'm going to develop, all right? Many times I did the experience of dying and to make what's living beyond my death. It doesn't make me something exceptional. Just there's many scientists and many people that do these experiences, trying to die, an imminent death. They're almost death clinically, but not really dead. But with electroshocks and products, we bring them back to and some say, oh, I saw this, I saw this. So ultimately, I've done these experiences of imminent death without dying in my body. You think with my preoccupations, the style or the mode of life that I have, of course I'm going to do these experiences as clear. You just have to try that, concentrate yourself, put everything in your life to have a knowledge, and you're going to have it. So really, I was surprised because I can describe you these worlds by many ways. For example, when you do the experience of death, what is really surprising is that in reality, what is death is just to come out of your house. The body is the house. And if you leave your house, then you leave your body. But your house, I'm telling you that the house is more important than you. Okay? You can understand the Essene villages, and that a house in an Essene village has no price, and you can't say the price of a house in an Essene village. Tell me the price of life, and tell me the price of death, and know that the only house that will belong to you really is an Essene house. The other, let's not even talk about it. They will not be yours. They will be dispersed and sold, and nothing will stay. Only the houses in these Essene villages are real houses. I can guarantee you that there's colossal expectations on these villages, because all of these worlds and these beings know that if they control your house, they control your life, your body, your family, that they'll destroy, and even where you're going to go beyond. When you do the experience of death, the difficulty is after to arrive and to try to explain this with words, because it's worlds that have nothing to do with the physical body. Okay? So I'm going to try to explain this to you. How do I do this? Well, I want to look at something that looks like this, looks like it. What can I find that looks like the experience of death? It's interesting, no? Does it interest you? Well, for example, without reflecting, just like that, I would say that you're going to listen to a philharmonic orchestra. And if in that experience, while you're listening, you're doing an experience that you're going to live beyond death, try it. Go and listen to an orchestra without even putting anything into it, but just into listening into. You will leave your body at a certain moment. I'm not telling you a fantasy, a phantasm. Try not to project yourself. Just do the experience. Neutral, free, without bringing your concepts of the world of men or your education. The education of the world of men definitively is a fall. It's a father and mother that's alcoholic, prostitute, and stealer. You take it. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. It's beings that have fallen from millions of years ago. We should not condemn them. We should just love them and try to make them rise again. We should look at goodness. It's goodness that is taking care of the divine world. It's not violence. It's welcoming. It's intelligence. So you're listening to an orchestra. It's a small experience. If you really want to have an experience total of life beyond death, it's the Egyptian temple. The Egyptian temple describes to perfection everything that passes. Everything that happens after death. It's incredible. On the model of the Egyptian temple, they took that to create Judaism, the synagogues. Christianity is very strong because you enter into a Christian church. And there you see, well, it's very ugly and it's the crucifix. But sometimes it's the statue of the Christ that is glorious, and you have the lights and the columns. And you see that it's the Egyptian temples, but a little bit different. If you want to see this, the Egyptian temples, it's the banks today. They are made on this model. If you enter into the banks, you see the columns. And you see their God that's protected behind there with their safe, and that we bow in front of them, that we give them our children. We sacrifice ourselves. You send your children. You're obligated. It's also obligated for you, not only your children. You're in the obligation to give your children for an education, to try to cultivate an agriculture, and we give our life to this God that's in the bank. And the ones that are privileged, that are going to these banks, they bow. I'm not saying that money is bad. I'm just saying that what is behind all of this. And for the Egyptians, it was the same God, but it wasn't money like that. It was the God of energy, of strength, of love. They are temples and they are houses. And even the obelisks and all of the things that have been dressed, the great companies and the great cities of the world. When you went into Egypt, you had the gods, but now you have the great banks in all of the cities. It's houses. That one passes, and that one stays. That's the one you'll go to see if you can have a house. And it will go back to them. There's nothing for you. It's not gods of love. It's gods that take everything for them. The Egyptian temple is a devotion. The Egyptian temple, you're in front of it. The Egyptian temple.
Les deux jambes ouvertes.
The two legs that are open.
Il y avait une salle.
After, here, there was a place, a room. It was open. I'm drawing it bad. It's in front and above. And there you had another room, and there were doors. This was God, the 4 letters of the name of God. In the alphabet of the Egyptians, if you drew a flag, you would put God. We put the inverse letter, the D. The flag is God. And the 4 flags is the 4 represents of God, the 4 letters. In all of the temples of the Egypt, you had the 4 archangels, the 4 guardians, the 4 sides, the 4 seasons, the 4 circles. And after, it was a feminine temple because it was the body of man. But only the woman could make you come alive again and again. Here there was a temple with columns.
Et là, en fin de compte, là, je dirais que c'était les 4 sceaux. Bon, c'est parlé d'une façon moderne, hein. Mais c'est un peu ça.
I would tell you that it was the 4 seals. I spoke to you like in a modern way. Here there was like the archangels. For us, the archangels, it's work, it's health, it's family and money. It's the great preoccupations. You have men that came here and they entered into the temple. And they entered, how to say this, in the entrance, but they didn't enter inside of it. Then they would say, oh, it's not, I'm sick, it's not going well in my life. And then there was beings that would take care and that would help them liberate all of this. And here there was a door. And here it was closed. It was much greater. There was the Essene village here, all of the houses of the priests and priestesses that were here. And all these priests and priestesses were in this place. And then there was people that were not religious. The religious people needed to protect the ones that were not religious. They were religious, but they hadn't given themselves to God. If you wanted to live in the Essene village of the priests, it's because you were at the service of the temple. The greatest servant in the temple was Pharaoh. Here there was a passage, and ultimately it was open. And here it was like a representation of Pharaoh, meaning the great priest, the chief, the supreme chief.
Là, il y avait une ouverture. Et là, il y avait une salle qu'on appelle la salle de la barque. Et dans tous les temples, il y avait la salle de la barque.
And here there was a room where there was the boat.
C'était la barque du Dieu. Et
it's a boat, the boat of God. And then you had another room with a door.
Tu avais le Dieu.
And there you had,
c'était que les grands prêtres qui entraient.
You had the God. And it's only the great priests that entered here.
Un temple égyptien. Et le Dieu, c'était une statue. Et
that's how an Egyptian temple was. And the God was a statue. It was a great celebrations, and they opened the doors, and the light from the sun will come, and it would touch the statue. And look at all of these things, because you are a woman. There is inside of you God. And there's a moment in the cycles of the moons, because the moon has 4 phases. The 4 phases of the moon. The sun will enter. The sex of man. Meaning the sex of man. And he will touch God inside of you. And you will be pregnant. And the child will come out from here, from the door. And will enter into the world. And every year the sun would come in and the statue would be put into the boat and come out. Did you understand what they said? They would take God out of the house, and he would take care of all the beings inside, because he must be born from within. Now, when you do the experience of death, what happens? Well, I'm telling you, I saw it myself in all beings that I've followed, friends and scenes that I've followed. The last one that suicided. I told you a few words. I even wrote you a letter. What do you see? First, you see that the body is here. Does the body enter into the temple? No. No, the body doesn't enter into the temple. But what do we do? Well, he enters, but he doesn't really enter. Meaning, does your body enter into death? In the world of death? No, he will not enter into the world of death. What is it here? It's the world of death. When you are dead, what do you do as an experience? Well, for example,
tu fais une expérience d'écouter un orchestre philharmonique.
You do an experience of listening to an orchestra, a philharmonic orchestra.
Et en fin de compte, ici c'est l'au-delà, et ce que tu entends.
It's that. And ultimately here, it's the beyond, and what you are listening to is sound. What was
relation devient
an act or relationship becomes sounds. And ultimately, you have a body of sounds. And everything that you have lived through becomes sounds and music. And you hear music. It's not an experience that you're doing with your body. It's that everything becomes sound. Everything becomes music. Either it's a dissonance or something that is great. There, you hear sounds. And you hear sounds, and you are liberated. And that's what it is. I would say, if I draw the physical body,
voilà, c'est exactement ça. Voilà, j'ai dessiné le corps tel que tu le vois
it's
après la mort.
exactly that.
C'est une prison. C'est une prison. Et c'est
When
un
you
lieu
see
de prison.
it
Et tu es
after death, it's a prison.
Et quand tu
It's a
sors
prison,
du corps,
and
tu n'es
it's
plus en prison.
a place of prison,
Et t'as
and
une
you are
espèce
in
de
prison. And when you leave the body,
d'être
you are
libre.
no longer in this prison.
Et en fin de compte,
And
t'es
you have
libéré
like
d'un droit.
an experience of being
Comme aller aux
free,
toilettes après
and
une
you are
grosse
liberated from a great weight.
expérience de
It's
la mort.
like being, it's like going to the bathroom after a great constipation. That's the experience of death.
Si tu penses à Elvis Presley ou à des gens comme ça. Mais
And of
surtout,
course,
si,
when you
tu
are
souffrais,
thinking of Elvis Presley and all these
alors tu ne
things,
souffres plus.
but if you were suffering, then you don't
Et
suffer
quand tu
anymore.
entrais dans le temple, tu ne souffrais plus.
And
Tu
then
étais comme
when you would enter
libéré
into
d'un
the
corps.
temple,
Et tu
you
étais
did
avec
no
des
longer
prêtres
suffer.
qui, en fin de
You
compte,
were
donnaient
like
des sons.
liberated from a weight,
Était
and
une
you were a
musicalité.
priest
Il y avait une
that ultimately
harmonie,
gave
une beauté.
sounds.
Et t'entrais dans le temple,
And it
c'était
was
une beauté.
like a musicality, a harmony, a beauty.
Merveilleusement
And you entered
beau,
into the temple. It was a
coloré,
beauty.
exceptionnel. Dans le
Egypt
monde,
was so
les gens
beautiful,
venaient en Égypte,
colored,
ils disaient,
exceptional.
mais qu'est-ce
In
que
the
c'est
entire
ça?
world,
Mais
people
tout
came in
était
Egypt and they would say,
lumineux, des jardins,
what
des
is
choses,
all
mais
of
c'était
this?
féerique.
Everything was
La beauté
luminous and gardens
était
and
partout.
things. It was
L'harmonie, la
completely
musique, la
full of magic and
délicatesse, le-
beauty was everywhere.
aucun
Harmony,
esclave, tout ça,
music,
c'est des mythes.
delicateness,
C'est des enfants mal élevés qui ont
no
discrédité
enslavement.
leurs
All of
parents.
these things are myths. It's children that are
Ensuite,
not
alors bien
educated
sûr, les
and that
humains
have discredited their
restent
parents.
ici. Alors, qu'est-ce qui se passe
Then,
quand t'es
of
là?
course, humans stay
Mais en réalité,
here.
t'es pas vraiment mort.
What happens when you are here?
Tu peux encore être amené
Well,
à
in
la vie.
reality, you're not really dead.
T'es pas mort, même si t'es mort.
You can
Et quand
still
les gens
be
ils vous
brought to
racontent, j'ai vu
life.
une lumière,
You're not dead, even if you're dead.
je me sentais bien,
And when
j'avais des
and
gens
people
autour de
say,
moi
"Oh, I
que
saw
j'aimais."
light.
Eh bien, en réalité,
Oh, I
t'es pas dans
felt
cette salle
good.
qui était
There was
la
people
salle
all
de
around me
préparation.
that I loved." But in reality,
Ensuite,
they're
tu
in
rentrais
this
dans la
room
deuxième salle.
that
La
was the
simple
room
salle,
of
il fallait que tu
preparation.
sois un initié. Sinon,
Then
tu rentrais pas.
you will enter into the
Et
second
qu'est-ce que c'était cette deuxième salle? Voilà ce qu'on
room.
te
For
disait
that,
dans
you
cette
needed
deuxième
to be
salle.
initiated.
Totalement
If not, you didn't go into this room.
C'est
What was
exactement
this second
l'expérience
room?
que tu vas faire après
This
la
is
mort.
what
Parce
we
que tu vois,
told you, and it's true.
quand
It's
tu
exactly
fais,
the experience that you're going to make
quand tu
after
fais
death, and you're going to
l'expérience
see
après la mort,
when
tu t'aperçois que tu n'as pas
when
vraiment
you
de
do
vie
the experience
individuelle,
of
même si t'en as
after
une.
death.
Par exemple,
You
tu t'aperçois que
perceive that you don't really have an individual life,
t'avais
even if
pas
you
de
have
dons qui
one. For
t'appartenaient,
example, you
mais t'avais des dons
perceive,
qui étaient en
for
partage.
example,
T'as des choses qui te
you
sont
didn't
propres, mais t'as des
have
choses qui viennent de Dieu.
gifts that belong to
De
you,
même,
but they were being
t'as des
shared.
choses,
There's things that belong to you, and there's things that are
des
shared.
défauts
There's things
qui te sont
also
propres, qui sont à toi, c'est ton bien propre. Un défaut,
faults
c'est un bien, c'est-à-dire c'est quelque
that
chose que tu
are
dois
yours.
Mais
It's
t'as des défauts
you,
qui te viennent
it's something that you must work on. But there
et
are
qui ne
also
te sont pas
faults
en propre.
that comes
Tu as
from
une vie à la
that comes
fois
from
individuelle,
others,
mais tu as une vie
and they are
collective. Quand tu es
not
mort,
really yours. You have a
ces
life that
choses
is
deviennent
individual,
d'une
but you also have a
évidence, mais
collective life.
incroyable.
And when you're dead, these things become
Et il faut atteindre un
so
certain degré.
evident. It's
Il faut
incredible.
que tu aies dépassé les sons. Parce que quand tu dépasses
You
les
have
sons, tu rentres
to
dans un monde
wait
de
for a
foi.
certain
C'est
degree.
quoi?
You have to have
Quand tu es
passed
mort,
these
qu'est-ce qui se
sounds,
passe?
because when you pass these
Eh bien,
sounds, you
voilà, c'est
enter
ça.
into a world of what?
C'est un
What is
monde
it?
d'amplification.
When you're dead, what
C'est-à-dire que
happens?
quand tu es mort,
Well, that's the
tout devient
problem.
puissant.
It's a world of
Puissant, mais
amplification.
puissant.
Meaning,
Ça
when
reste pas
when
enfermé.
you're dead,
Et là,
everything
tu
becomes
t'aperçois qu'il y a la
powerful,
puissance.
like
Mais où est la
really
puissance? La
powerful.
puissance, elle est
It
à
doesn't stay
l'intérieur de toi, elle est
enclosed,
pas
and then
dehors.
you perceive that it's
C'est-à-dire
power.
que tout ce qui
Where is
s'approche,
power? It's inside of you, not from your body. Everything that approached you,
soit
you have
tu
two
l'élimines,
choices. Either you eliminate it,
soit tu l'éteins.
Or either you extinguish it.
Soit tu
Okay,
le brandis,
do you understand this?
soit tu l'éteins.
Either it becomes great,
T'allumes une flamme,
or
soit
you
tu
extinguish
t'émerveilles,
it.
soit tu t'en fous.
You light a
Soit tu
flame.
conduis le feu à
Either
l'intérieur
you're
de
in
toi
marvel,
et tu enflammes
or
le monde
you don't
entier
care.
de beauté.
Either you conduct the fire inside of you
Tu passes à
and you
côté, le feu, tu t'en
inflame
fous,
the
la vie,
entire
tu t'en
world of
fous, les
beauty,
autres, tu t'en fous,
or
les dieux,
either
tu t'en fous.
you pass
Et là,
beside
si
it,
t'es
the
comme
fire
ça,
you
mon
don't
ami,
care, life you don't care,
c'est que
others
t'as
you don't
éteint la
care.
vie. Et si
And
t'as
if
éteint
you're
la
like
vie
that,
et
my
que tu rentres dans le
friend,
monde des arbres,
it's because life is
dans le monde des
extinguished inside
colonnes,
of you.
des
And if
colonnes de
you
Dieu,
enter into the world
et je pense que
of
dans l'Apocalypse, c'est
columns and
marqué. Parce que
trees,
vous
the
voyez, ceux
columns
qui
of
ont écrit ces
God.
livres comme l'Apocalypse
And I
et tout
think
ça,
in the
c'est des
apocalypse
êtres
it's written,
qui n'ont
because
pas,
the ones that
savaient
have
ça.
written all of
Ils
this, the
vivaient ces
apocalypse and all
expériences.
this, it's beings
Et en fin de
that
compte, à un moment
knew
donné,
this.
à un moment
They
donné, il dit,
lived
tu
through
seras
these
une colonne dans le
experiences.
temple de Dieu, dans la
And
maison de Dieu.
ultimately,
Et ça,
there's a
je peux te
moment
garantir que
where
ça vient d'Égypte.
you will be at the column in the temple of God. And that I can
Donner à
guarantee
César
you,
ce qui est à
that
César
comes
et
from
à Dieu ce
Egypt.
qui est à Dieu. Ces textes viennent
You have
de
to
ceux qui
give to
vénéraient la
Caesar,
maison de Dieu. Et ces
to
êtres
Caesar,
vivaient
and to
pas
God,
de
to
façon
God. These
égoïste et éteinte
texts
pour le corps physique. Parce que
came
comprenez
from the
bien,
ones that venerated the house of God, and they
comprenez bien
weren't
ce que je vous dis.
egoists,
Si tu as vécu
egoistic.
exclusivement pour le corps,
You have to understand very well what I'm telling you.
quand tu
If
vas
you
mourir, tu vas
lived
entendre des sons, tu vas avoir
exclusively
un
for the
soulagement.
body,
Après, tu vas pas
when you
savoir
will
à quel
die,
passage,
you will enter and you listen to
qu'est-ce que
sounds,
tu as donné
and you will be
comme
liberated. Then you will
force
pass
à
into
la
the
vie.
second
Si tu as vécu uniquement
house.
pour le
What
corps,
did you give
si ta
to
maison était
strength,
à
to
ton
life?
service,
If you
si
only
tout
live for
était
the
au
body,
service du corps et que toi, tu n'étais
if
pas au service,
the house was at your
mon
service
ami,
and everything was at the service of God, of the body, and you were not at
et
the
là, tu vas
service,
même pas jusqu'à
then, my
Pharaon,
friend,
hein,
there is
c'est-à-dire
nothing.
quoi? La fausse image que tu as de toi.
And there,
Là,
you'll
ce que
not
tu vois
even
ici,
go
c'est
right to the
Obama
Pharaoh, the false image of yourself. That what you see here is Obama, Harper. Oh, well, he's not there anymore, but there's no interest to me right now. I don't even know how to call them. Machin, machines. And then it goes back to recycling. Here you have the statue of recycling. And here you have the statue of God. For who did you live and for which house? Okay? Here, Oliver, you are arrogant and insulting. No. I have profound respect for these beings and for these men. But you have to understand that these beings have no chance. It's already lost beforehand. They can be honest, they can do everything they want to. They have no chance to arrive where they want to. It's point blank. Because the one that has no knowledge, not intelligent, and not respectful, how do you think he's going to get there? He's in a world where everything is written and they won't be able to get there. So in reality, do you want me to develop this one? Okay. So what happens if when you enter into this world? If you enter like an Egyptian, and is seen a priest of God, because Egyptians were like idols today. You have to do the experience. If you're going like the experience of death, I'm dying. I no longer have a physical body. I am lost. I don't know what to attach myself on. I was completely identified to my body and to my terrestrial existence. I arrive into a world where the body no longer exists. I can't attach myself. I'm not posed. I'm completely unstable. What do I listen to? The music? My life has been a music, and all the experiences have been a music. And I can pose myself on this music. I can do the experience of music, and the sound becomes just as real as my hand and of my body. And ultimately in this sound there's images, and I'm attaching myself to these images. But there what comes to me? Liberation, to feel completely light, the experience of entering into a church, serenity. People that are good are all around me. Even if I have done things that are bad, it's people that are good. That's the experience that I had. Because you're entering into the house of God. The house of God is not where we judge you. It's not the house where we condemn you. It's a house where we welcome you. It's like a hospital, for example. I'm not going to judge you. No, we're not going to heal you because, oh, you're not good. And we'll heal you because you're a certain religion. No. It exists, but it's not official. And ultimately, it's not like that. The house of God is for all beings. We don't judge you. If you go higher, there we tell you, you have never lived alone. You have never lived alone. Okay? You didn't live alone. Your ears, it was worlds. And with your ears, there was friends all around you. Your eyes was worlds and worlds. Your hands were worlds and worlds. You think that your hands are your hands, but they weren't. We shared and we gave you these hands. Your feet also are the same thing. They're not your feet. It was the feet of all humanity, of all animals. Now go see a horse or a cow and look at his feet, and look at your hands, and look at the liberty that you have compared to a cow or a horse. If he wants to scratch himself inside of his nose, look, he can't because he doesn't have fingers. Look at the pleasure of doing that. If you have what he has, it looks completely stupid what I'm saying, but it's sharing it. It needs to be love and respect. If you have all of this, you illuminate life. If you are arrogant, if you are sufficient, then you will extinguish life. You do not live alone. You live with superior worlds inside of you, through your thoughts, your emotions, and your will, through your senses and all of your organs. When something has been brought to you, either you extinguish it, either you amplify it. How? The body doesn't do anything. It's the life inside of you. And here is life inside of you. Today, we would say that it's ministers that are here. So how did they do this? They would say that here's education, here's agriculture, but it's not really that. Okay? Here's justice, the Department of Justice. Here, economy. Defense. There. And these beings came, and we would say, oh, that's their statue. It's your column. The beings, they would come every day, make offering with incense and pray. They would pray for justice in all the people, and that God in his column of justice. And then they would present themselves in front of Pharaoh. And there, they would offer him offerings, justice, agriculture, economy, to be offered to God, to his boat, and to his statue. And it needed to be in conform with the statue, with the commandments of God, so his house can be honored. There, they knew that they were going to disappear and that the temple was going to stay. Listen to what I'm saying. The statue that had worked, the column, will stay for centuries to centuries, through generations. Okay? Look how they are thinking. They think house, where I live, the father, the mother, the family, the cell of the family. Who belongs? The house belongs to who? They would say to the state. Does a family need to be strong? No, let's destroy it. And it will be weak. And the family being weak, where will they go? To who will they turn to? To the state. You will not put people into enslavement. You will not have other gods than me. You know, you can present yourself in front of the statue and say the 10 Commandments. There's no chief of state. There's not even any Pharaoh. If Pharaoh becomes an idol, it's done. Put Jesus here, it's done. Put Buddha, put Mahomet, put Quran, put the Torah. Nothing is greater than God, and the real book of God is nature. So beings would present themselves here. Today is you, the Essenes. You have presented yourself in this house. Okay, it's greater than death, and you're in the house of God. We must not be in the world of men, but we really have to understand that when you take a virtue, she is in your house. Now I'm explaining this to you. You're going to die. Okay? What will stay from you? Well, your house. It's all. And who must live in your house? Your children. What's going to happen? Look, your children will keep your image, the image of my mother and father. I lived my whole life with them, and you'll have small children also. Oh, it's the grandmother and grandfather. It's sacred. The small children will remember their grandmother and grandfather, and then you'll have further and further. You will no longer exist if you're a great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandmother. You'll no longer, people don't think of you anymore, and no, you don't exist anymore. Then, at that moment, you are reincarnated, and you will come back, and you will continue. But the house, there, it will stay. The house will stay because the only thing that will stay is the house. And the people will come back into the house. And if they degrade the house and degrade your memory and everything that you have done, and when you will come back on earth, what were you going to recuperate? Your house. And the memory that's inside of it, and the infinities that were inside it. And if you have a stealer, oh, you're saying that these people they steal. Yes, I'm telling you that they steal. Oh, well, they're negative. No, they're not negative. It's God that wanted them to steal. Oh, well, protect yourself from the ones that steal. But if you are there and you give them worship, well, come on. How can you do not to narc an ego? It's hard to resist. Do not submit me to temptation. But when we're there and it's, oh, come on, just take advantage of me. It's telling you, take care of everything. Well, no, take care of yourself, of your family. No, I completely give myself to you. Well, no, a little bit of respect and dignity. Take your life into your own hands. Come on. Take your life in your own hands and honor God. No one is greater than God. Come on. And at that moment, they're going to steal everything. But do you understand what I'm telling you? They're not going to steal the physical body. Who cares? He will steal what's beyond in your reincarnation. That's what a temple, an Egyptian temple, is telling you. And you will come into a world where there's no longer agricultural destruction and irrespectful. It's evident what I'm telling you. Do you understand the laws? And what do we see today? What is done there? What's done inside and everywhere? And if it's done on the exterior and we've destroyed the physical body, well, we don't really care. But if we destroy the life inside of you, but when you see life after death, you will see that your body is not important. But did you illuminate life or did you extinguish it? If you extinguish it, it's there. If you illuminate it, you will meet yourself here on the form of Peter, Den of Mahomet, or even the Torah. But it's only an illusion. If you stay there, and that you will not go beyond and behind it, then you are in the illusion. But if you go and you see behind this, you see there's a world, here is silence. Here is this state that we called the Virgin. Here is the Virgin. Only one mistake is the Verge. It's the same thing. It's the power, creative power. The Virgin is ultimately to be silent in front of God. Don't think it's easy at all. If you want to enter into silence behind the sounds, men here are scared because there's nothing that is human anymore. Here you're in front of God. There is nothing that is human anymore. And when you enter into the temple of the statue, and that you are in front of the statue, then it's the origin of God. Here I can't say anything, almost. I can't say anything. It's the origin of the totality of the worlds. Well, what is it? What is it to go towards God? There is nothing anymore. There's no sounds, no images. There's nothing at all. You are in a state where there's nothing, but in this nothing there is everything. And you can live only there if you have made yourself a body with your senses, your devotion, and if you have brought perfection, and that you have gone through these worlds of perfection, and that you have gone through to a superior world. So we call this a chalice, the grail, because the grail was again the image of the virgin, of the woman that gives herself like an earth, but prepared. So you need to be prepared. So effectively, if you can come and arrive into this and enter into this boat, I talked to you about the boat and the 7 flames and all the teachings that I gave you, but Oliver, how did you do this? Because it's an angel that did this, it's not me. It's really an angel. But how is it possible? Because it's organs. It's organs of perception that are clear. It's just to have organs inside of you that are clear. You need to work on your organs and then it will happen. Don't you find that astonishing what I'm telling you? And look at all of these things. I'm telling you that what existed here is starting to appear in the construction of our temple. It's the first temple of God that will be constructed since thousands and thousands of years ago, because the statue that is there is not Buddha, Peter Deneuve, or Mikhail Avenov. It's all these beings that are sent beings of God, but it's God himself that is represented. And this statue has been done by these archangels, by sacred writings, and you have all of the worship, all of the life after death in this. And one house in Essene village is not to live in the world of men, but it's a house without taxes that will be transmitted without taxes, because it's not a house for men. It's not a man that comes to live in that house, but the one that comes to live in that house is a service of God. And why is it without tax? Because religion has nothing to do with the world of men, and these laws are good. Because to be religious is to be at the service of the common good. And our statue, as soon as it is put place in the temple, it will appear into the world as a protection for all beings and for the common good of all beings, of all animals. And you will see when we have put the statue and start to do the worship, you'll see that these houses are not the houses for the world of men. Oh, well, my mother and my father lived in that house. You will see that Essene was a priest of a certain virtue, of wisdom, of harmony, of humor, of goodness, and you will honor their mother and father, their memory, so that when the Essene will reincarnate quite rapidly, because you're not going to pass through generation, because everything will be extinguished. He will recuperate then his memory. That's need to happen to all men. You want to protect your family? Have a family, a house for your family. Oh, no, but a family house, a house for your family will protect your family. The family, the children will recognize this house. It cannot be in the condominiums. The houses, the children need to come in with their children also and to live with it. It's in an image and divine. Urbanism is not that. It's not codes and laws. Urbanism is still the art of living together, preserve families, the art of living in harmony and living beyond death even. They have done their towns like cemeteries. It goes very far what I'm telling you. I'm saying it really, really fast, and it can shock some. It's maybe a point of view that nobody knows. It's quite a point of view that's astonishing. But I'm asking you to meditate, and you'll understand many things of the laws of urbanism and all these laws that have been put in place, not to preserve families. They haven't been put in place to preserve families, but to conduct everyone into enslavement. Now, are these people bad? No, they're not bad. Try to understand. You have had a war in Europe that we called worldly. It was a new form of war. We would kill everyone, the children, women, animals. No one was left, no respect, no honor. Are we in accordance? The English, the Americans, the Canadians, when they bombarded France, who did they kill? Women, children. They bombarded everyone. But they didn't do it. They didn't do it on purpose. They didn't kill or kill the churches. They wanted to destroy everything. Do you think that the Americans had a choice to bombard the Japanese? Do you think they were obligated? No. It was really something that was really strange, all of this. Do you think that it's done, all of this? We touch fire. What did these beings tell themselves? Listen to what I'm telling you. Who governs the world? It's very simple. Either you have religion and life that is great. If you don't have religion and life that is great, who governs? If you are not towards God, who are you for? If you were towards an image of a chief, but who is the chief? The most virtuous? But if he doesn't have a God and no life after death, where is the virtue? Explain that to me. You have on one side an idiot, and on the other side intelligence. And the ones that are intelligent, what is it if there's no God? It's the ones that are hiding things, and if there's a God, it's the one that has the most virtues. If there's no God, it's the ones that are perverts and liars. And if these beings, they tell themselves after, how are we going to govern these people? Because they can't rise. So they don't have a choice but to enslave. You don't understand it, because ultimately you can't put yourself in their shoes. But when you are in their shoes, they can't awaken, because we're going to lose control. They're going to see that we don't care about them, and that we have to destroy them from within to make them slaves, so that they have no choice. And how do we enslave them? Well, we make them weak, and we put everything in place to make them weak. Why? Because they want to control the population, because they're scared that there's a war, and that there's a massive control, and that they lose that control. Everyone would do this. They're not really negative. They don't really have a choice to enslave, because they will lose control. Because these people are not idiots. They know if there's no religion, that we are lost. So we want to go on the other path and bring religion on earth, the statue of God, and ultimately the temple. And there you have all the teachings of life after death. And all of that is in the Egyptian temple. And when we will construct our temple, that's what it's going to be. And inside of it, when you're going to go bow in front of the statue, and even at your house with the worship, you will always have the statue of recycling. And to bow in front of the silence is an education, and to make appear. And there's a moment you will see things that will appear, that will have nothing to do with the world of men. You will be beyond spoken words, and you will be in the world of alliances, okay? You will leave the world of men. You will enter into like a meditation and a peace. You will see of order, to pose yourself, to live beyond death, and you will work your senses, your eyes, your ears, your sentiment, your emotions, and all of that is in another world. Either you live in only one world, and I'm telling you, my friend, it won't go very far. Either you live in two worlds, and you see that everything is alive, and there's a subtle world alive around you, and you must go through this boat of Gabriel, and you will really understand that you have a life within that is much, much greater than the world that is outside of you, because it's inside of you that gives you the power. or extinguishes everything. As soon as you understand this, you will give power to alliances that are superior, and at that moment you will meet God like something that we can't speak of, like something of a source of everything, a source of body, the source of sounds. At the beginning was the Verb, sounds. Everything is done by Him, but behind the Verb there is the soul, the worlds, infinite, and there's the divinity. And in the Verb there was the God, and in the Verb was God. And without Him, nothing, the lie of nothing. If the God is not present in the Verb and in the body, then is the shadow. And that means to go back to the beginning and to recycle in this complete perpetual cycle, or awaken. They placed Jesus here. They idolized Him because they needed a chief. And after, it's political, okay? Because the beings that usurped, they said, let's put us Jesus, align Jesus, and let's bow. And everyone accepted to bow. But in reality, behind the image, it isn't good. The boat isn't good. The boat needs to pass. And that everything needs to be aligned, and the temple needs to be well constructed. That a son of God can only construct a son of God, temple of God, and only a son of God can make him appear. But the problem is that thousands of years, nobody has succeeded. There's been temptations. The sons of God have come, but there's no temple. Now you can understand many spoken words of the archangels. Do everything now before our son is no longer there. When I'm not there anymore, that statue wouldn't have appeared there. And you would have told yourself, oh, that Oliver is like our father. He enlightened us. He brought us a knowledge. And we honor him. And we will want to bring with him. But it's a mistake to live with him. We not look at the form, but the immortal's being. And always the beings that speak towards, through beings, through Buddha, through all of the sun, and the sound and music, to bring that towards a life that is much greater, to make it appear together with all the priests. Because not everyone is all the scenes. I know that there's beings that are going to listen to me on YouTube and all of this new technology. They're going to be shocked, but they don't understand. But we bless us. We have no enemies. We are working for all the beings for every being. But in a scene is a priest of God. And God now, for us, it's that antenna. Of course, it's not that form. I can tell you that if you concentrate yourself behind this form, pure, virgin, pose, all of your senses on awakenment, you will see appear something. There's no words. The sun is pale. The stars are minuscule. Universe that is eternal is just a small box of cheese. God is much greater than any concept from the humans. God is splendor, marvel, the only reality and source of morality and of all existence. Please pose the temple. Make sure that this temple is posed and this worship of God may appear on earth so that our life may be beautiful with light of this great image of the immortal being. Does it please you? A great thank you. Beautiful week. I'm telling you, be happy and joyous because God is with us.